Tacklight lantern is advertised as an LED lantern that is tough. It can withstand extreme weather. It can take a beating and fill an entire room. But does it really work? That's what I'm going to find out in my review of Tacklight lantern. Tacklight lantern was originally advertised under the name Tough Lantern, but it's now found as Bell & Howell Tacklight Lantern. It's advertised as a compact, bright, and durable lantern using LED lights. The design and the claims are nearly identical to another product which I've also reviewed called Atomic Beam Lantern, which I'm going to compare those in a separate video. I'll be testing some of the claims regarding the Tacklight lantern, those claims being that it can take a beating, it can work underwater or frozen, and it can fill an entire room with light. So I'm going to test those out and see if it actually works as advertised. To use the Tacklight lantern, you simply pull up the top and it turns on. Now the light is very glaring, but it is quite bright. Tacklight lantern uses 3 AA batteries. There's no rechargeable version, there's no USB port, it's 3 AA batteries. And although you can adjust the brightness by pushing it further into the chamber, that actually doesn't dim the light, so dimming it doesn't actually save you any battery life. One of the claims made in the Tacklight lantern commercial is that it can withstand being frozen. So I'm going to stick this in the freezer for a few hours and see how it performs. It's kind of funny in the advertising, the spokesman says, "There's just nothing on the market like it today." Well, I guess they never heard about Atomic Beam Lantern. There's dozens of alternatives to the Tacklight lantern. If you go to a sporting goods store or even an electronics store, you might find an entire section of LED lanterns. The prices can range anywhere from $5 to over $100. Online, you can find similar models to this for about $10. I even found a 4-pack of very similar lanterns for $20. It might pay to shop around, but on the other hand, if you see it and you pick it up, I think you're probably going to think it's alright. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. I'm going to go check the freezer and see how the lantern is doing, having been frozen for 3 hours. There's actually some condensation on the lantern glass now that it's been opened up after being in the freezer for 3 hours. So as far as the freezer test goes, I think that it did a pretty good job. There is a deluxe model available, although the one sold in stores as of this time is not the deluxe model. The only difference between the regular model and the deluxe is that there are 4 magnets in the bottom which allow you to stick it to metal objects. Now the Atomic Beam Lantern, which I've also reviewed, does have those same magnets in the bottom in its standard issue. Another claim of the Tacklight lantern advertising is that it can fill an entire room with light. I'm standing here in a small room. It's about 12 by 12. And I'm going to turn off the light and see how well the Tacklight lantern does by itself. So here's the room. Right now I have one dim lamp in here, so the Tacklight lantern should have no problem filling the room with light as well. Okay, so let's see how it looks. I'm not going to say it's as good as a lamp, but I mean, there's certainly enough light in here to see around. If there was a power outage, there'd be more than enough light from this lantern to fill this room. So I think that's a pretty valid claim. I actually find myself using this more often than I expected over a regular flashlight, because a regular flashlight is directional. You have to point it. With this, you just turn it on, it kind of illuminates the entire area. I'm actually kind of a fan of the LED lantern over a regular flashlight. One of the most common questions I get asked is, how about the battery life on these lanterns? So what I'm going to do is put a fresh set of batteries in here, put the time lapse on, and see how long the batteries last. Okay, so this is 36 hours of battery use. It's significantly dimmer than with a fresh set of batteries. I'm going to compare this to a fresh set of batteries and put these side by side so you'll have a better idea of how bright versus how dim they are. So I was pretty sure it was going to fill a room with light, and I was pretty confident that it would pass the freezer test, but I've got two more tests for it, neither one of which I'm sure it'll even survive. One of them is the drop test, which I'm going to do now, and if it survives that, I'm going to do the water test where I put it underwater. I have a feeling it'll survive the drop test more easily than it'll survive the water test, so I'm doing the drop test first, where I drop it from 5 feet onto concrete and see how it works. So here we go. Let's see what happens. And now for the big reveal on the drop test. Oh, it survived! So Tack-Light Lantern survived the drop test from 5 feet up. Now we only have one more test to do, and that's the water test. That's coming up next. But that was a nice demonstration of how it survived dropping from 5 feet on concrete. I give it good marks for that one. So it survived the freezer. It lit up a room with light, and it survived the drop. But now for the big test. Can this lantern survive being submerged in water and still work as advertised? We're going to find out right now. Oh, it's working. It's still working, but I can see it filling up with water right now, so I don't think I'd want to use this underwater for very long, like more than a few seconds. There it goes. Well, it works underwater, but it's full of water now. As you can see, the water's draining out of there right now. So, I mean, it does work, but I don't think that's really a very efficient way of having light underwater. It's not a unique product, it's not the cheapest, but for what it is, it works pretty well. Overall, I think the Bell & Howell Tack-Light Lantern is a decent product. Is it as good as the hype in the advertising? Probably not. Is it the cheapest lantern out there? Definitely not. But if you see one, you pick it up, I think you'll probably be happy with the purchase. Have you used the Bell & Howell Tack-Light Lantern? I'd like to know what you think, because your opinion might be different than mine. And if you like this review, I would very much appreciate a subscribe so I can continue to bring you as seen on TV product reviews in the future. Until next time, this is James White from freakinreviews.com. Thank you.